All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Trey Gonzalez. I'm a product manager here at Verify, and I'll be your host for today's live webinar. I'm joined by my good buddy Jim. Jim, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Trey?
Oh, I'm doing just great,
Oh,
just great, and I'm really excited about this too. As one of the product managers behind the scenes, it's really cool to see how this feature alone can save our customers a ton of time. Also, how it opens the door for even more impactful features in the future. And I know you're looking forward to touching on that later in the webinar as well. Um, so I had the pleasure of being able to work with you and the rest of the team behind the scenes on today's topic, and I could be more proud to finally present this new feature for you guys. We're going to be covering a brand new search set functionality and call history search. But before we dive into that, let me walk you through the agenda for today's webinar. So first, we're going to kick it off with a quick overview about Verify, what it is we do, and then we'll jump into a demo where Jim will demonstrate and showcase the brand new search set functionality. After the demo, we'll pause for Q&A. We'll get some of your questions answered. So during the demo, if you have any any questions, please be sure to ask them in the chat panel. I'll be monitoring those, and I'll be sure to get all those questions answered towards the end. And then lastly, we're going to reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang tight till the end to see if you might have won. Now, a little bit about us. Verify is the preferred analytics and management solution for UC Analytics. We provide industry-leading dashboards and call reporting for Cisco Unified Communication Manager, Cisco Contact Center Express, Cisco Cubes, now Zoom Phone, and WebEx Calling Analytics. We support all of these platforms alongside a suite of management tools such as remote phone control, macros, change management, DID management, and all of these are focused towards CUCM, Cisco Call Manager. But today we are going to be focusing on this new search set functionality, like I mentioned. So if you have any questions about any of the other features I listed, or if you just simply have an interest in taking them out for a test drive, please feel free to message us in the chat panel. Or if you're already a part of the Verify community, you can reach out to your Verify account manager for more information. One more thing before we kick off, I wanted to mention that Verify does offer a managed consulting service where our system engineers team engages with you on a one-on-one basis. You'd have somebody like Jim or Vic, and if you've ever been to these other webinars, you'd recognize these guys. They'd be the ones helping you out. We remotely provide consulting, unassisted reporting, dashboarding, configuration, and system monitoring assistance. And again, this is a service that provides you a dedicated Verify systems engineer like Jim to do all of the heavy lifting for you, giving you a completely hands-off experience. So for more information, please contact us and we'd be glad to speak more in depth about those managed services. All right, now it's time to get into the demo. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Jim, if you want to take it away.
I certainly will. Let me get my stuff shared out here. Make sure I get the right screen. All right, you able to see my lab there, Trey?
Still loading for me. Okay, there we go. I can see it now.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right. Hello, and thank you, everyone, for joining us on another webinar. As Trey mentioned, I'm going to be showing you the enhancement we made to the call history page. This will apply to CUCM, Cube, WebEx Calling, and Zoom platforms. The main purpose behind this change was to pave the way for something that a lot of our customers have been asking for, and that is the ability to drill down into widgets. So to be able to do that, we had to make this change on the call history page because they kind of go hand in hand. And what that will do is allow you to see the actual call records that make up a statistic or graph on a widget. It can also be useful in reporting as well, which is what I'll dive into today. We'll have more information coming up on the widget drill down in the near future. I think we're hoping to have these both included in the next release, which will be 15.3. That could change, but that's due to be out mid or early to mid-November. Like we do with all new releases, we're going to have some webinars to cover all those new changes. So stay tuned and don't forget to register for all our webinars. All right, you may have heard a few of us SEs refer to this history page, right, that you're seeing here as a sandbox or a playground. And that's exactly what it is. It's a place to try different searches to see if the results are what you're expecting to add to it, to subtract to it, to get exactly what you're looking for in a report. If there's, like I said, if there's something that needs to be added or removed from the search before creating a final report, it's easier to do in the history page rather than creating a report, saving it, running it. Nope, I got to edit it, go back, edit it, save it, run it. This is a little bit easier, like I said, a sandbox area where you can play around and get exactly what you want in the report. So let's take a look at the history page. You may be noticing there's a little bit different than what you're used to seeing. I'm going to pull over my 15.2 lab. Notice this is 15.3. I do have an early copy that development let me use for this. But the 15.2 lab, if you notice, kind of go here. This current day, this is the search time window. It wasn't always apparent that that's what it was because there was no title on it. So what we did, we added a title above that search time window, moved it over here to kind of get it in line with everything else to make it more presentable. And the sort direction we kind of scrunched. It used to be this big old box with just a couple of things in it. So we did make that more appealing there. And this kind of applies to the entire widget, or I'm sorry, the entire results of the report. So, and the main reason we are here is for this right here, the create search set. This is an addition in 15.3. Notice it is not here. You can only do one basic search set. You can have multiple search criteria on that search set, but you can only do one at a time here. So if you want multiple search sets to turn into a report, you kind of have to build one here or build a search set here, create the report or export it to a report, and then add on from there. So a little bit tedious. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Notice we also have this filter by call duration, which we did before, but it applied to the whole search set. This below this little line here applies to each search set. So you can change, each search set can have an individual, you can exclude zero duration calls on one and include all calls on the other, or options there. Match all criteria applies to just this search set. So you can have one search set that has match all criteria and one that doesn't. And if you're not familiar with that, that is the difference between an and an or statement in your search. If you've got multiple search criteria on one search set. All right. So I think that's mainly all the additions. So I'm going to go create a couple of reports just as, maybe real world examples. Let's get started with that. So let's say I'm being asked for a report for outbound calls for 3 extensions. Also want to see inbound calls for a different extension. So my search type is going to be calling party number. So I'm going to remove this default original call party number and add the calling party number, and then add criteria. The first thing I'm going to do is add my first extension. Actually, I want 7 there. And search time window, I'm going to change that to a specific date because my lab only has certain data in it. I'm going to go back to August 4th. Like that. And I'm going to sort direction by descending. And we can always change that to show. So 18 results for that extension for outbound calls. Outbound calls, calling party number is the extension. Original call party is the number they're dialing. So that looks good to me. I like that. So I want to add to that. So if I go back to view modify search, and in this case, I could add another extension here, but I'm going to create a new search set because I can. It's there, so I'm going to use it. There are other reasons that I'm doing that. I'll get to that in a second here. So I'm going to add my second extension, 2236, and view results. And notice how easy this is to just kind of go back and forth instead of, like I said before, going into report, saving it, running it. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Going back and edit it. you can do it all on one page here. So that total increased to 34 calls. And I see my 2437, my 2236, but I do notice 2236 has a couple calls to other extensions. I don't want that. I'm just looking for outbound calls to the PSTN. So I've got to build on that search set and create something that'll filter these out. So if I go back, there's a number of different ways to do it. I'm going to pick on just a digit length because I know my extensions are 4-digit and anything dialing out is going to be more than 4-digit. So I'm going to go back here and add to this search set and original call party. My criteria will be starts with. I'm just going to put a bunch of capital X's. As long as there's more than 4, capital X's are a wild card. So as long as there's more than 4, it's going to start with that. So that's going to eliminate any call from this extension to a 4-digit extension. Might as well add that to this because in my original results, just for this day, I don't have any internal calls. But if I run this report for a month, I could end up with internal calls. I want to do the same thing here. And let's view results. So that dropped me down from 34 to 28. And as you can see, these are all my outbound calls. And I said I wanted 3 extensions, so I'm going to add another search set. And party number 2639 this time. And add my filter for outbound calls only. And don't forget to change my starts with. And I had 28 results, so I'm going to view the results for this with that added extension, and I'm now up to 70. So it's got all the extensions. I am going in descending order. Obviously, if I change that to ascending, I'm going to get the earliest calls first. 8:56 is when they started. Great. So I've got that. I also was asked to add calls received by a specific extension. So to do that, I'm going to create a new search set and original call party equals and 2677. View my results, and that should add to my 70 total, which it does. That brings me to 113. And if we scroll through here, you'll see these calls. Actually, sorry, this call is an inbound call, so I want inbound calls to 2677. All right. And one more thing, let's add to it. And I want to see if there's any abandoned calls, not necessarily for these extensions, but any abandoned calls coming in. I do that to highlight our new search criteria or search scenario criteria. If you haven't seen this or used it, it's a great tool. We've got a couple of webinars we've just done recently on this, and this allows you to easily pick out abandoned calls, answered calls, connected calls, voicemail calls. Like I said, if you haven't used this, check out that webinar. It's got a ton of great information out there. So I'm going to see if I've got any abandoned calls here. My results were 113. Let's see what I get here. And 114. So yeah, I do have one abandoned call in there somewhere. So great, this is what I want. This is my report. So I can't really give this to anybody. This isn't, it's meaningful information, but it's not in a good format. So from the history page, you can just export results. What that's going to do is put you in the reporting page, and it allows you to save this for future use. So make sure you click on that and give it a different name. One thing I'm going to say, if I go into search set, it's supposed to have all those criteria that I just did all my search sets built automatically. There's development is working on that. I think they have this fixed already, but I didn't want to load up my lab right before the webinar. So normally you would see this. I do have another set here, which I kind of mocked up in here. And if I go to search sets, you'll see this is what it will look like. It'll show ad hoc search set. It'll have the search sets that you've added. This is my abandoned calls. This is ad hoc search set for my calls from 2437 and so on, the rest of my searches here. I would suggest that you rename these to make more sense. On this one, I want to say abandoned calls. And for this one, I would like to say, which extension was this? 2437. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of them, but you get the idea. Just name these and you can then run the report. In this case, from the original page, if I would have, if this was working, I can go ahead and, as long as I've got that saved, I don't have to save it, but it's a good idea if you want to rerun this report for other things or schedule it. Make sure you click that, name it, and then when you run it, it's going to give you the results. You can pick your report delivery and run it there. But I'm going to go back to this and save this guy and just run it from here, just to give you an idea of what the results will look like. Make sure I have the same day. Search time window, yep, August 4th, and PDF is good. And let's get this guy opened here. So here's my report. I got my abandoned calls of 1. My I should have named here, but calls 22677, 43 of those, and these are all my calls from these extensions. And then all the details. And these details are sorted here by, well, I've got it on ascending, looks like. So, earliest to latest. And what I also want to show you, if you're not aware, this search criteria up here, what I like to do is I like to get rid of this. This is kind of ugly, doesn't look good on a report. If I just want to report with the numbers, then what I would do is go into your search set statistics, turn this guy off, show search set criteria, and then I'm going to turn my details off. Let me give this report another run. Again, if I would have saved this from the history screen, it would be here anyway with my name, so I can just go back and run it as normal. And once this generates here, you'll see a big difference in how the report looks. Runs a little bit quicker without those details. And just a clean looking report without the details. It doesn't have that search criteria. I personally like this better because it doesn't have that added information. As long as you name your search sets correctly, it'll make more sense then. All right. So I think that's all I wanted to cover there. So one other thing, I'm going to go back to my 15.3 lab. Go back here, start with a clean slate. One other report we get asked for a lot is maybe inbound and outbound calls. I want to know how many inbound calls I'm getting, how many outbound calls I'm making. And so change this to ascending. I'm going to keep my date stamp. I'm going to create a new search set, and let's just do it. I'm just going to get an idea. Original call party, and starts with, and just one capital X, because I want to see all my data, because I want to try and figure out what I need to do to differentiate between an inbound call and an outbound call. Since I'm a little familiar with my lab data, I'm noticing, so this is an inbound call coming to 2910, inbound call. And my originating device, I could use the digit length like I did similarly, with the capital X's, and then I could do 4 capital X's for the extension. I could also focus on the originating device name. So originating device name starts with primary or secondary. I've got SIP trunk, but I've also got some other SIP trunks here, so I really don't want to use that. So I'm going to focus on primary or secondary. I go back to my view modify search, remove this guy, add a device, originating device name, and starts with primary, and I'm going to add. So this either starts with primary or starts with secondary. Give me my results for that. And that should show all my inbound calls because the originating device starts with my gateway, SIP trunk, either primary or secondary. So that's great. I like that. So I'm going to add another search type and use the same device name, but I'm going to use terminating device, and this would be my outbound calls. And starts with primary, starts with secondary, and view my results. I've got 4,500 calls, and I don't know if I'll have any. There's some outbound calls, and my terminating device is the primary set. So great, I got that. What I want, I'm going to export results. Again, save for future use, give it a name. The search sets will carry over. So I'm going to hop back to my other mocked up report and go here. And you'll see this is what it would look like with the search sets carried over. And that a save. And we'll run it real quick. All right, there we go. And there's my two separate search sets, one for inbound, one for outbound. I did name these on the search set on my mocked up report, and then all the details. Again, we can get rid of this search criteria and keep or remove the details depending on what your end user is looking for. So I did mention before, I made on my first report, I made multiple search sets. The reason I did that is I had a customer recently that, I could use grouping for that. I could put all those extensions into one search criteria and then use grouping to extract that data out. But what the customer that I was dealing with thought that was great. They liked the grouping here, gave them stats for each call, but they also, the details, they wanted to be able to filter those details. And as you can see, with the grouping, it puts in each extension on a separate, and you've got different headers. So to do filtering on that's kind of a pain. So what I did, I created multiple search sets, kind of like I did in the history screen. I wish I had that history screen when the 15.3 when I was doing it, because it would have made it a little bit easier. But this was the results. And, I've got my search sets just like I did in the report. I just got the first three though. And then my results in Excel are all in line. So then I could do filtering on all the results. So that was kind of the reason behind doing that the way I did that search set. Like anything in Verify, we're flexible. We can do a lot of different things a lot of different ways. So if you ever struggle with that, just don't hesitate to reach out to us. That's really all I wanted to show, Trey. We have any questions come in?
I don't see any questions specifically. A couple comments I'll read off, and I'll give people some time to throw questions in there if they'd like to. Just as a quick note, the Q&A section is available. I don't see an active chat, however. For some reason, it seems disabled. So go ahead and use that Q&A if you guys have questions. Just a couple comments here. One stating that this is a great addition, and now that we need a button to create a report from these search sets, so that does seem like a pretty good idea. Jim, do you get that request a lot as well?
Yeah, you could always create a report from the search set, even on the old version. It's just that you would have to only limit it to one search set. So you'd have to do that, go to the export the report, the history, and then add on to that. But yeah, this is great. It allows you to play in your sandbox, as I say, and get exactly what you're looking for with multiple search sets, and then go to a report from there. Yep.
Sweet. Cool. Yeah, I don't see any other questions. So if anybody has questions, you can feel free to email us. It's going to be jim.schultens@verify.com, or you can contact me, trey.gonzalez@verify.com. Either one of us would be happy to reach back out to you and help answer your question. But we'll go ahead and move on to the winner of
Yep, I'm going
the
to stop
drawing
sharing
today.
there, Trey. You could take it over.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. All right. So the winner for today's $50 Amazon gift card is Michelle Tominelli. Michelle, thanks for joining. We'll be reaching out to you shortly. And yeah, thank you again for being here. We do have a quick announcement before we head out. I've got another one. Just make sure you register for our upcoming workshop. That's going to be next week. It is on how to isolate and report on calls in WebEx calling. That's going to be October 4th at 11 Pacific time. And then you can just go ahead and register right there at verify.com/company/webinars. And that concludes today's webinar. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. If you haven't already, feel free to add us on LinkedIn or reach out and contact us. We'd love to connect with you, and have a great rest of your week. Thanks a lot.